Good day and welcome to the Pediatric Department News. Today we have with us Dr. Paula Robertson. She is a consultant at the Pediatric Emergency Department of the North Central Regional Health Authority. My name is Dr. Rabia Haidal Mohammed, a registrar working at the Pediatric Emergency Department. We are here today to enlighten you and give you more information about epilepsy. So Dr. Robertson, what exactly is epilepsy?
Thank you. It's a good question. Epilepsy is one of the most common neurological conditions or brain conditions in the world, and it really just means that the affected person is predisposed to getting sudden bursts of electricity or electrical discharges from the brain, and that becomes manifested by seizures.
So what is a seizure?
So a seizure is just a physical signs of a sudden electrical storm or outburst of activity in the brain. And there are many different types of seizures. In fact, we think there's probably around 40 different described types of seizures. The most common ones people know are what we refer to as a tonic-clonic seizures. So those are also known as grand mal seizures, where basically the person becomes stiff. There may be shaking or jerking movements associated with it. It can look quite frightening the first time you see one of these. And often the person is unconscious and unresponsive in this particular type of seizure.
So do they all look like that?
No, as I mentioned, there's about 40 different types of seizures. So there can be others where the person may not lose consciousness, but may not be fully aware. So you may see things like staring movements. Those are often seen in a type of epilepsy known as absence epilepsy. You can also get repetitive movements, maybe walking in a circle or picking at clothes, for example, repeating words inappropriately. You can get seizures where people fall, maybe go stiff but not shake or jerk. Seizures that involve more subtle areas of the face, for example. So it can present it in lots of different ways.
So what do I do if someone is having a seizure?
Good question. The thing that we want to remember is to stay calm and to remember the key points of your first aid. So this comes from Epilepsy Action in the UK, and the main points that they want us to remember is called action. So I say we've got a person and they're in the phase where they're shaking and jerking. What we want to do first of all is assess the situation, make sure there's no sharp edges, no hot surfaces around where they can injure themselves. Also loosen any tight clothing. So I'm just going to loosen his jacket a little bit. C stands for cushioning the head. So rolled up pillow, towel, or blanket like I have here. You definitely want to put that under the person's head or neck while they are in the seizure to make sure that they're not going to injure themselves during the shaking phase. T means to check the time. So you want to check your watch, your clock, radio, TV advertisement if you haven't got those, just to get an idea of how long the seizure is going on for, because it can feel a lot longer than it is in actuality. Some patients also carry a medical alert bracelet or a necklace. So if you don't know the person, I means you just check to see that there's no identification to say that they're epileptic or, for example, diabetic. O refers to the fact that once the shaking phase is over, we want to turn the person over onto their left-hand side. So you can help me, Dr. Heidel. What we want to do basically is to turn the person onto the left side. You want to bend this leg that's on top at the knee, right? And I'm going to bend the arm that's on top and stick the hand under the person's chin. So they'll look like this with the head in the neutral position. So this really is known as the recovery position, and in this position a few things are going to happen. The patient's tongue is going to fall forward naturally, any saliva or secretions will drain out, and they'll be able to breathe a little bit easier as well, okay? Right, so we're going to just put him back for a second, just as we talk about N. So N stands for never. So you never want to restrain the person. You don't need to put anything like a finger, spoon, fork, nutmeg, salt, or sugar in the person's mouth. In fact, you cannot choke on your tongue when you're having a seizure, but what happens is that you lose control of the airway temporarily. And so turning the person on this side, as we have just demonstrated, actually allows gravity to keep that airway safe, because that tongue moves forward, any secretions or saliva drain out. you may find that while the person is actively seizing, that their tongue muscles, their jaw muscles are all tightly clenched, and you can actually get injured. You may get bitten in the process, or even knock out teeth. So it's much safer to, in fact, have the person on the side. You would take this young person to hospital or call an ambulance if the seizure goes on for more than 5 minutes, if there's more than one seizure in 24 hours, if the person injures themselves during the seizure, if the person isn't recovering as they normally would afterwards, and there may be a period, as we said, where the person has what's called a post-seizure or post-ictal event where they actually seem to go really relaxed. That recovery period may go on sometimes for a few hours, but if it is going on longer than that and they're not recovering in the way that you know them to, that's definitely a sign to take the person to hospital. Or if you're worried, if they are definitely, this is the first time you've seen it, or you're concerned, that for sure would be a reason to go to hospital. Okay?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Robertson. So, in summary, we have epilepsy is a condition that affects 50 to 60 million persons worldwide. It's a neurological condition that affects the brain and can manifest with seizures.
Mm-hmm.
Seizures really and truly are just electrical discharges from the brain that can cause a variety of symptoms. They can cause patients to stay, called absent seizures.
Yes, yeah.
They can cause shaking and jerking, also called tonic-clonic seizures. And they can vary in time.
That's right.
And frequency. They're also associated with symptoms such as loss of consciousness.
They can be.
And if I come across a person with epilepsy who's having a seizure,
Yeah.
there are 6 things to remember. Action.
All right.
8. Assess the situation and ensure that there are no sharp objects. C. Cushion the head
Mm-hmm.
with something like a towel so that they will not injure themselves.
Right.
T. Check the time. See how long the seizure is lasting.
Mm-hmm.
I. Check their hands. See that if there's any identification tag, if there are any instructions with regards to seizures.
Yes.
O. Turn them over into the recovery position once the seizure is completed. N. Never put a spoon into their mouth. Never put your finger into their mouth, and always know when to call for help. This has been a very educational activity for us to learn about persons with epilepsy. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Yeah.